Hey guys, just a fun video I thought I'd throw together really quick. Almost everyone is familiar with the classic D&D alignment chart, which has since been applied to countless of franchises and mythos. I think it would be fun to name a Star Wars character for each alignment and give a brief description as to why I believe they fit the archetype. You may disagree with where I place a character, or you may have chosen a different character altogether. It's for that reason I encourage anyone who's interested to make their own choices down below, or even make their own video showing us your choices. I'll only be naming one character per category as to invite others to participate as well. And if you make your own video, try to stick to that rule as well, just so we can encourage some uniqueness, although I'm sure many of us will end up using the same characters for certain alignments. Well, that's enough explanation, let's get started.
We are justice.
When I think of lawful good, the first character I think of is Plo Koon. He's vindictive and stern, but overtly kind at the same time. He has a very strong sense of duty, making him a very knight-like character. But he isn't so righteous that he sees himself higher than anyone, and he has a really gentle nature to him despite his rather strange appearance. I love the fact that he looks so grim and is really sort of an honor-bound character, but at the same time is a very warm and inviting person who will look out for the common people and his friends. In the Star Hyperspace War, he led his men through the most grueling of battles, but at the end of the day took the liberty to treat many of their wounds himself, and form a bond with them as companions. He's a man of code and selflessness, and one with a very strong sense of justice. But it is his kindness and his compassion that which really sets him apart.
I will do what I must.
Now this is the alignment where I believe all Jedi typically belong. When I think of a neutral good Jedi, I first think of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's unshakable in his faith to the Order, but he can be a bit wary of many of the Republic representatives, especially in the face of its corruption. While he can be a great friend and trusted ally, at the end of the day, his loyalties lie with the Jedi Order and the Force alone, and he will do whatever he must to uphold its will. This was made evident when he confronted Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar, and he was forced to lie about Darth Vader's past to Luke Skywalker, in an attempt to assure he could face and defeat him. Ultimately, I believe the downfall of the Jedi during the time of the Clone Wars was due much to the fact that they were too lawfully adherent to the Republic as a whole. The Republic at this point in time was becoming exceedingly corrupt, as strings being pulled by a secret Sith Lord. The Jedi ultimately wove their own demise through the leading of the Republic army as generals, and if they were more neutral in their standing with the Republic, it would have been much harder to pull off the Sith's grand plan. But this is just my personal opinion, but yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi is certainly neutral good.
I take Anakin as my Padawan learner.
I'm gonna have to go with Qui-Gon Jinn. While he is still one of the Order, he puts all of his loyalty into the will of the Force. He often goes against the Council's advisements and traditions, and often achieves good through the use of questionable tactics. He's definitely the definition of a great Jedi, and if it weren't for his rejection of the Council's decision, Anakin Skywalker would have never become a Jedi, and the prophecy would have never been fulfilled. He followed what the Force was telling him, and it's through this strong connections to the Force that he was guided to make decisions that were frowned upon by those who were completely adherent to the Jedi Order's teachings. It was really interesting to see Qui-Gon Jinn live on as a Force ghost, which only further proves the fact that his connection to the living Force was something of legend. While many of the Jedi Order obviously hold a very strong connection to the Force, it is Qui-Gon Jinn's willingness to break tradition that allowed him to achieve this sort of understanding. When I think of lawful neutral, I think of Imperial Knights. When I think of Imperial Knights, I think of Antares Draco. But further within the Legacy comic series, his alignment occasionally wavered into other archetypes. Initially and for the majority of his knighthood, however, Antares Draco served the Imperial Emperor Roan Fel without question, obeying his every command and throwing himself into the most dangerous of missions. Until the desperation of the war and the insanity of Roan Fel had shaken his loyalty, he was unconcerned with the politics and philosophy surrounding the Empire, is willing to give his life to the Imperial throne on command. While Antares Draco did eventually kill the one he was sworn to protect, he had done so to save trillions of lives and the planet of Coruscant itself. At this point, Antares announced the Imperial Knights owed their loyalty to the light side, and although it wasn't the first time the Imperial Knights made this claim, it was only then made true by Antares' act of heroism in killing Roan Fel. While many of this would see as a breach of his lawful alignment, I see it as an adherence and fulfillment, as he had saved countless lives, both citizen and imperial, all within the will of the light side.
So, we're going to split the bounty 50-50, right? Don't push your luck, Sam.
In my opinion, nothing says true neutral like a bounty hunter, and if I were forced to pick one, I'd pick Jango Fett. While he does adhere to a warrior-like code through Mandalorian tradition, he ultimately follows the flow of credits, rather than any sort of black and white philosophy. He can be loyal to those he trusts, but also cold and ruthless. He's been hired by countless clients, ranging from government officials to the scummiest of crime lords, but really what's the difference? While he does hold some serious grudges against the Jedi and other parties, ultimately it's the pay that matters to Jango. He found consistent employment just before the start of the Clone Wars, working under Count Dooku as the clone template and an occasional bodyguard until his death. Once he was made a bounty hunter, Jango became married to himself and his career, and the only affection he had ever shown other than that to his credits in Slave 1 was towards Boba. Unpredictable and a little bit crazy, I'll have to go with Dash Rendar. Both smugglers and bounty hunters can usually be bought with credits, but there are some who just simply do not want to be pinned down by any sort of obligation, whether it is pay or not. As a free-spirited Corellian, Dash Rendar has built much of his ship, the Outrider, from stolen Imperial parts. After making a name for himself in the Outrider through his work as a smuggler and mercenary, Dash was eventually hired by the Rebel Alliance to rescue Luke Skywalker, as well as assist in the capture of the second Death Star plans. Even though the pay was good, and he had a grudge against the Empire for exiling his family, Dash eventually decided that he wanted to end his responsibilities with the rebels. At the end of Shadows of the Empire, it is believed that Dash Rendar was killed when the Outrider was destroyed in a skirmish over Coruscant. However, it was later revealed that Dash intentionally caused the Outrider to be destroyed, or to feign his death, and work freelance once again. However, years later out of the blue, he would return to assist in the fight against the Yuzhong Vong. To say the least, Dash Rendar is an absolutely unpredictable character, as he is willing to destroy his most prized possession just to avoid responsibility. Rumors began circulating that Dash eventually was able to scavenge what was left of the Outrider, but this remains unconfirmed. Regardless, he has certainly lived an extremely chaotic lifestyle, and owed loyalty to no one other than his independence. He's very much in the Corellian spirit. A survivor of the Clone Wars and the founder of the One Sith Order, Darth Krayt comes to mind when I think of lawful evil archetypes. He doesn't crave power for power's sake like many of the other Sith, but rather to establish lasting order. While it could be argued that his goal has ultimately become degraded into just a selfish craving of power, it is the idea of lasting order that motivates Krayt, whether he's fooling himself or not. The hierarchy within his Sith Order really only reinforces him as a lawful character, and the fact that he broke the Rule of Two makes him even more noteworthy. Even though I don't agree with his breach of the Rule of Two, he's gone so far as to impose himself as Emperor, and unlike Sidious, is under the belief that he's ultimately creating a more lawful galaxy, rather than just amassing political influence for the sake of it. He's a really awesome character, and breaks away from much of what the Sith have set in stone for thousands of years, just for the sake of order, so I definitely believe he belongs within this category.
Why hesitate? Strike me down.
In time, Ron. First, I need something from you.
This is where most of the Sith easily belong, but I'm going to break away from what is probably expected and pick a Dark Jedi, and from there I would have to pick Jarek. Even in his time as a Jedi, Jarek craves Sith teachings for power's sake alone. His thirst for wisdom came directly from his desires for knowledge that empower him within the Force. He is purely motivated by shamelessly selfish goals, and does not delude himself on the basis of order or revenge, or anything of the sort. He's out for himself, and that's it. Jarek had served under the command of Sidious and Vader, and upon their death, likely came to the conclusion that such pretenses of galactic peace were nothing but an illusion or excuse to achieve empowerment of oneself. Jarek was straightforward and to the point. He wanted to bend the Force to his command, and he would have killed any number of people to achieve it. A Sith within Krayt's order, Darth Malevolent was selected to lead Joker's squad against Ron Fell's loyalists within the Second Imperial Civil War. He forced members of Joker's squad to personally execute their former comrades for sick pleasure alone, and was enamored with pain while in combat. While this certainly isn't unheard of in the ranks of the Sith, Malevolent took it a step further from the norm by utilizing a shock whip to painfully fry his enemies to death for his entertainment, It is stated in the Legacy role-playing guide that he would sometimes leave his enemies alive after horribly maiming them, just so he could be pleased knowing that they would go on to live a very painful life and serve as an example to his adversaries. Fortunately for Joker Squad, Darth Malevolent was killed by the rookie Anson Trask as he attempted to kill Hondo Carr. I think it is safe to say that Malevolent would have killed even more of Joker Squad if he hadn't been dispatched. He was widely unpredictable and more than a little psychotic, so he certainly is a chaotic character, even in the realm of the Sith.